I want to talk about the fear of starting, okay? We've all wanted to start, or maybe even have started something, a dream, a development, a desire, something that is seated deep in our heart that we want to let loose and get out to a world waiting. And as an influencer, as an instructor, I get a lot of young game developers that come to me and say, Mark, what makes a good video game? Mark, what makes a great video game? And I lean close to them and I say, one that gets finished. Because you can't finish anything until you start something. But there's always the fear of expectation when we go to loose anything creative out to a world waiting. It's the unknown. And so it stays in our head, and it's safe there, and it's warm, and we can realize it. But in order for us to loose it and get it out there to finish, we have to start writing it down. And as we write those features, and as it starts to take shape in front of us, the words just keep building and spilling off the page, and then all of a sudden that intimidation comes in, that expectation rises, and we're like, oh my God, I can't meet that. And worse yet, is we look out to that world, and we start to project our expectation on them. Our expectation, the world's expectation. But that's actually a false thing to do because the world, they don't know what you're going to be bringing out. They have no expectation. And so as you're projecting, you have to be careful not to place it on the world. It's enough for you to be able to meet your own expectation without that other pressure. And let's just say, for instance, that the world does have a certain level of expectation. I challenge you with this. The world is not looking for another Me Too. It's not looking for another copycat. The world wants something fresh, something innovative, something constructive, something for the first time ever. The world wants something as unique as your fingerprint. The world wants you. The world wants your story. The world wants your idea. Anybody here? Okay? That doesn't happen until you loose it. And so you have to get over that fear. The next thing that sets in to an individual when they start to realize their dream is the imposter syndrome. The feeling of a fraud, the feeling of a fake, the feeling that I'm going to be found out, that I really don't know everything that I do. And I want to tell you guys, as well as myself, we're not that special. Everybody feels imposter syndrome. And I'm going to give you a fun example right now, okay? So buckle up. I'm going to give you an example of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Who here knows about Arnold Schwarzenegger? Who's ever met Arnold Schwarzenegger? Seriously? Wait, keep the hand up. What? Really? All right, the Governator. All right, excellent. Anyways, at Atari Games, I was art directing Terminator. And we actually were allowed to put Arnold Schwarzenegger's likeness in the video game. This is the first time ever. There's been many Terminator games that have been made. This is the first time ever we were able to use his likeness in game, which was really exciting. So we talked to the movie studio. We were able to get the cyberscan data, the 3D topology of Arnold's body. And we took that model and we put it into our game. And as I'm watching this model go around, I'm sitting there and I'm saying, you know what? Arnold's a big guy, but this just doesn't look Terminator enough. Okay, Terminators don't open a door and walk through it. All right, they pick up the nearest car and they throw it through a wall. And then they walk through it. So I'm looking at this model and I'm telling my artists and I'm sitting there saying, guys, let's make Arnold's chest a little bigger. Let's make his thighs a little bit thicker. Okay, that looks great. All right, now we got to go meet the man because he has to approve his likeness. And so I go with this model, I go over to Synergy Studios, and we sit down with Arnold and his agent, who's kind of a tool. And so I'm sitting there, and Arnold is watching his 3D model spinning on the screen, and he's just sitting there in his Hawaiian shirt and his cigar. And his agent all of a sudden chimes in, I don't think Mr. Schwarzenegger's nose looks right. I think his eyes are a little too far apart. And all of a sudden, Arnold's like, no, my face looks good, my jaw is strong, my eyes, they're sharp, it looks fine, just leave it the way it is. The agent comes back and says, you know what, I think Mr. Schwarzenegger could be a little taller. No, my stature is solid, I'm like a mountain, I'm strong, leave it as it is. And so I'm saying, this is great. We're going to get the model approved. We'll be able to make the video game and just get on with it. So as I'm walking out of the meeting, next thing I know, I hear behind me, Mark, wait a minute, I want to talk to you. Yes, Mr. Schwarzenegger, what can I do for you? Mark, I want you to go back and tell your artists they did a good job on my body. I look really good. They modeled it fine, but I want to make a request of you. Could you make my chest a little bigger? And of course, I didn't have the heart to tell him that we already did, right? Sure, we can do that for you, no problem. So I say all of this to say that Arnold Schwarzenegger, seven-time Mr. Olympia, known throughout the world as being one of the most influential bodybuilders of all time, Imposter Syndrome. So we all have it. And so as I wrap this up, I want you guys to understand that you're unique. Your ideas are unique. They are solely who you are. And so there should be no need for imposter syndrome because you're not trying to copy anybody because it's coming from you, your fingerprint, your identity, your dream. This is what you have, and this is what the world doesn't want. It's what the world needs, that originality and that uniqueness that you have. But you have to start. You have to start now with what you have, what you know. It has to be now, guys. Thank you.